The Avengers discover that the Phoenix is looking to possess Hope Summers, the mutant messiah who will supposedly bring the mutant race back from the brink of extinction. But Hope is with Cyclops, so Captain America goes to have a chat with him.
The Phoenix could save the mutants, Cap!
But it could destroy the world, Scott!
But it could save the mutants!
But it could destroy the world!
Shut up, old man! You're not my dad! Savior's not my dad! None of you are my dad! My dad's a space pirate!
A helicarrier full of Avengers fight a bunch of X-Men. Hope Summers begins to channel the Phoenix Force and escapes. Hope tells Wolverine that she's going to accept the Phoenix, but if things go south, she wants Logan to kill her.
Details. Mike's like, we're gonna kick ass this episode.
The hell was that?
And then like, I'm gonna go get parts of me taken out.
Yeah. Well, he's been pretty vocal. He needs to have something done with his gallbladder, but for guys his size or my size, but specifically how he carries his weight, they're concerned about. You know, normally you just use laparoscopic stuff. You go in with these like 6 little robot hand tools, and you know, Bob's your uncle. It's all gone. That's actually how they did my my initial weight loss surgery. But I was a rare case in that I was a big guy. But when they checked, they're like, "Oh, your organs are closer to the surface. You're, you know, just my body makeup." With him, they're like, "Well, we got to be careful." So he's getting scopes done where they go down your throat and they try to pull it out that way. So they did it with some stones. And he was ready to go home. And then they're like, well, you got more. So we're going to send you to a specialist. So what would have been a couple-day procedure is now like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he's fine as far as in spirits, but he's like, I want to go home.
He misses his Wiley.
Yeah, he misses his kitties. Luckily, where he is right now, he's in technically a different health region, which is, I guess, under a different rule set. So his wife Blair is allowed to visit him, whereas in Guelph and in KW area, these 2 regions are still locked down where nobody can visit you when you're in the hospital. You have to leave. So he's doing okay. He'll be back on the next episode because, you know, there's no way they're keeping him. I'm going to say that, knocking on wood. There's no way they're keeping him weeks and weeks and weeks. He should be actually, as far as procedures go, home in the next week or so.
I love Mike, and I know he wouldn't actually do this, or there's at least a 10% chance he might do this, but you remember the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon Birdman? Like, how he used to say, live free or die hard. I wish he would use that as his battle, just Birdman, as he leaves the hospital. Well, just let people know.
The difference there is one thing is quoting the title of a movie. Another thing is a copyrighted line, right?
Well, that's only if somebody like records it and plays it on TV news, and then the lawsuits happen.
That's true.
So the topic we're going to do today is something that I think is probably I'm going to put this in my back pocket as a recurring episode format where we're going to pick 2 or 3 comic book stories, either major crossover events or something that's even like 3 or 4 issues, and you know, we're going to rewrite this stuff. But before we get to those, and I've picked 3 I think pretty good ones for this first round. We're going to, you know, go over, it's Sunday, some show about nerds and news is going to be coming out today or tomorrow, and being that it's Alex, you know, we're going to talk.
I'll tell you right now, depending on this, well, we record things early, so yes.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to put it. Yeah.
Just ignore what's going on behind the curtain. But yeah, so we're going to do some comic book news first. And the first thing, I think the big thing this week, obviously, is after a week hiatus and everyone getting that Kevin Feige monkey on their back, you know, I need a fix, man. We got our first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I didn't know going into this first episode that it's only a 6-episode run. I thought it was going to be the same or like an episode short of what WandaVision did. Because they did 9 episodes with
I thought it was 8. Yeah, I thought it was 8 initially, but then I realized these are 1 hour or 45-minute or more episodes, so it's almost double the length. So you're getting the equivalent of, I guess, 11 or 12 WandaVision episodes if you go by running the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you do the half-hour format. I mean, on another show that I'm part of, the Comics Connoisseurs, we did a whole series look at the Wanda thing, and we all agreed like you could have trimmed like 2 episodes out of that, or combined like the black and white episode stuff together.
You could have trimmed, or you could have given it 1 additional episode to fill out some of the stuff that they seem to drop. That there's some stuff they're hinting at for, obviously not a sequel because they're not doing another miniseries, but it's carried over into the movies and other series. But there could have been 1 more episode to clear up some of the stuff that wasn't hinted at.
Yeah.
So, but we're not going to get in too much into that. But there were maybe, I would say, 2 or 3 loose ends that were like, huh?
Yeah.
And not like, oh, I see what they're doing.
And I mean, one thing with Falcon Winter Soldier already that, God, I love the rest of the comic community, but people, just because they're not going to get a second season doesn't mean you have to sour your grapes before the show started, because Kevin Feige's...
it's part of a it's part of a larger tapestry, right? Like, think of, I guess the good example would be the Netflix ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Netflix shows did have second seasons and sometimes a third, but each one was a piece of a puzzle. And that's sort of what they're doing here. So don't think of it as, oh my God, WandaVision only got this many episodes. It's, hey, you just got a 5-hour movie that's a prequel to the next phase.
Yeah. And so I mean, we've got this first episode where it's not even really an action heavy episode, because I mean, that's what they're doing. This is going to be more along the lines of, say, a TV version of Winter Soldier. Like there's a conspiracy at foot with the Flag Smashers. Sam's still dealing with not feeling worthy of being handled. You're Captain America now. And like, just that gut punch at the end of the first episode, a spoiler warning, folks. Like, have you seen it already, Alex? I don't want to spoil it for you either.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, at the end of the episode, like, it begins with, we don't know if Steve is alive or dead. It's kind of nebulous, but Sam, hands over the shield to the Smithsonian. At the end of the episode, they pull out, the government's like, yeah, it's cool as it is. And then they rip off the speech from the dedication ceremony to introduce the goddamn U.S. agent. I cannot tell you how much I hate that name. And the only good thing about the U.S. agent, who looks about as derpy in his suit as Chris Evans did in his Captain America from the first Avengers movie, because that was not a good costume.
No, it was not.
The only good thing about that, the actor playing John Walker / U.S. agent is Wyatt Russell. That's Kurt Russell's son. That's the son of Snake Plissken.
Oh, and if you've maybe seen him in Goon 2 as one of the main,
I actually haven't
rival
seen
bad
that one
guy.
Yet.
He looks like when you think, oh, what would he look like with his parents being Goldie and Kurt? He's exactly an amalgamation of them. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I highly recommend this series. Like, not a huge, like I said, there's action, but it's not as action heavy as you would expect.
Well, the production budget.
Yeah.
We're now hitting HBO levels of production budget for their programming.
Yeah.
Whereas, even if you look at, like, The Mandalorian, looks great. And WandaVision looks great. We're hitting, like, I'm looking at this and, like, we're looking at like $200 million movie budget.
Oh,
and just the lighting and the just like you can tell they're using the top end lighting rigs, the top end movie cameras, the best people to make, like, you would not think it's a TV show whatsoever. And I guess in a sense we are getting 5-hour movies. So it's just that, we're told to think that it's a TV show, but it's really a movie.
Yeah. And I mean, that I love that level of quality control here. And also the fact they brought back my boy Batroc Zelipa. We got GSP back in that role. And friends of mine is like, why do you like that so much? It's literally the only Captain America villain that doesn't have some form of jacked up performance enhancement. Like, he is literally 100% human. He is just a like S-tier ass kicker before he put that suit on.
He's a human, like, parkour machine.
Yeah. the only version of and I've seen every version of him in animation. The only version of Batroc the Leaper is the one they had in, I think it was like the Marvel Spider-Man, the one that ran over the last couple of years with the like just the less said about that. The one in there is just horribly annoying. Might have been the one from Ultimate Spider-Man. I know he was voiced by Rob Paulson, and he's just like I leap. But okay, anyway, watch the show, folks. You won't be disappointed. Now, this is something I missed.
And he appears to be recurring too.
Oh yeah, I mean, why not? It's a character that could potentially kick Cap's ass. Potentially.
Yeah, and from what I'm not the most read person here as far as the comics go, but isn't he more of a neutral or like a true neutral character in that he's not actually evil, he's just there for the money, right?
Yeah. I mean, early Batroc, they didn't really lean in, like they call him a mercenary, but it wasn't until like the last few years where you get these morally gray characters a lot of people glom onto like that. And over there, there's even
like a Captain Cold sort of thing.
Yeah, very much like that. I mean, there was even a run, I think 2 or 3 volumes of Black Panther ago, and it's the run that they turned into like that 6-episode motion comic series on BET, like over a decade ago, where Jaimin Hansu voices T'Challa, the Black Panther, and he showed Batroc's in there, and it's all art by John Romita Jr., and it's just Batroc. He doesn't wear the Union suit. He's still as much of a threat as ever, but he's very much there for the money, and he even tries to like, hey, I'll work for you, T'Challa, and then he gets his jaw broken. But, moving away from the TV, into comics proper, a couple weeks ago, they had another, and this is something I think you might like, Alex. Spider-Man's working for BuzzFeed now. I believe it was...
What?
Yes, in issue 60 and 61, beginning of this new storyline, Peter Parker, currently in the Marvel Comics, he was Dr. Peter Parker, like he had a doctorate or a PhD, but that was from the time Doc Ock was in his body, and somebody with like a fraud detecting software analyzed Peter's thesis, and hey, this is basically copy and pasted from some stuff by Otto Octavius. So they took that away from him. He's forced to go back to school. He's in school, but he still has to make money, and he's been blackballed in journalism from years ago, where he edited a picture to save Jonah's career when he was mayor of NYC. So as Peter Parker, he talks to Nora Winters, who's this Lois Lane type character in the Marvel universe. She said, hey, talk to Spidey, tell him to meet me here. Nora is one of the head creative minds behind a website called Threats and Menaces, and it is literally Marvel's BuzzFeed. Like, here's top 5 reasons how you might be an Inhuman. Click here. Like, so
it finally happened. Like, he's making Gen Z clickbait shit.
No, this is where it gets worse and hilariously entertaining. Jonah, who a couple years ago found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and has made basically he's been nothing but nice to Peter since, and like he's like, wow, I've been a complete asshole for years. He's the man in the chair. The people they got the funding together. They created a new Spider-Man suit for him. It's like silver and blue with like these yellow Tron line highlights that people can live stream Spider-Man fighting crime, like because they got a camera in his headpiece. He gets paid for how many quips he puts out. The suit will spew out holographic pop-up ads. Like,
so is this mainstream, like main Spider-Man comic?
This is mainstream. This is OG 616 Marvel. My Spider-Man is fighting crime with the power of the internet, but he's not Freakazoid. And I fucking love this. I mean, it's over the years, like he keeps going back to the newsboy routine, like taking pictures. And then he was the science editor for the Daily Bugle. And, until his credentials were revoked and all that. And I just wanted to see, like, I can almost hear your blood pressure rising right now.
Well, I was thinking this isn't as bad as I thought. My fear was they were going to go down like have him be like a QAnon type of reporter where it's like all like gamifying everything and making up all this crazy bullshit. But no, that sounds like it fits the modern day. Because I mean, let's be real, nobody's reading newspapers that are under 50.
Yeah, I mean there's a whole, and I'll have to explain it to you like off mic or something, but how the Daily Bugle died, was resurrected under another name, and then got the name back. It's a whole thing in the comics. Now, another Marvel news item that came out this week, and I kind of forgot about this, and I was like, oh yeah, is Marvel, now that they're owned by the House of Mouse, and the House of Mouse owns all the 20th Century Fox properties. I refuse to call it 20th Century Studios. It's 20th Century Fox, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I guess anything that was produced before 2020 would be considered that, right?
Well, no, like if they put out like reissue Aliens, it's gonna be 20th Century. So Marvel now has the license, because it lapsed from Dark Horse. Marvel's now has the license to produce Predator and Alien comics,
which would be cool if they're willing to let it go R-rated.
Well, agreed. I mean, they're not labeling it Marvel Max or anything, but they announced the creative team behind it this week, and a shot at the cover, which looks like basically a comic image from out of like the original Punisher Predator movie. The writing is done by Eddie Brisson, who has worked on, I think he's currently working on the currently running Iron Fist series and the last Ghost Rider run, and art is being handled by Kev Walker, who has worked on Doctor Strange and Star Wars Dr. Aphra comic. And the first issue goes as such. In the near future, a young girl sees her family slaughtered by the deadliest and most feared hunter in the universe, a predator. Years later, though her ship is barely holding together and food is running short, Theta won't stop stalking the spaceways until the Yautja monster who killed her family is dead, or she is. So I think with Marvel, because I mean, we're 20 years into Marvel rejecting the Comics Code Authority and still putting out some pretty hardcore stuff, even in the regular Marvel universe, I think there's every chance that this is going to be a worthy addition to the franchise.
Because I mean, when it comes down to comics, most comic stores that I've been to, at least in my area before, I mean, obviously I haven't been since the pandemic started, they had a section, that was kids or family based comics, and they were smart enough to keep all that stuff separate. So if your comic is maybe going to be geared towards all ages or family, maybe then have some sort of seal on it, or a little notification saying, yes, this is all ages friendly, but then have everything else be, up to your discretion, because it's as weird as it sounds, not a lot of kids are going and buying comics with their own money. It's either parents buying it for them, or, or as gifts, or they're going together. Like I didn't see a lot in the last like 5 years when I would go to a comic store, seeing kids just coming in like as groups of kids, like we did when we were younger.
Yeah.
It's usually them coming with a parent. Even when they're like a teenager, there wasn't a whole lot of them coming in unless they were coming with a parent. So, I mean, it's just the way the market's changed. So the fear of having an R-rated comic, like your market, what's the average age of a comic buyer? Like 35 plus? Something like that?
I'd like to be generous to say like late 20s. Youngest.
Let's say if they're the kids that got hooked when the comic book movies became popular around the time, let's say Spider-Man came out.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're like 25 plus. So, know your market.
Yeah. I mean, it's all well and good, because I know they already announced the Alien series that's going to come out. And there has been a little uptick in, chatter. Kind of hate using the word like that, of both franchises. I know I think it was either on Comic Book Resources or IO9, website an article talking about how Alien almost had, they were going to continue the tradition of cartoons based on R-rated movies for kids in the 90s. Like they had the Operation Aliens toy line where you had like the bull alien or the scorpion alien.
Well, we had all the like 2 different RoboCop cartoons.
Yeah. And only one of them is really that good to rewatch now. It doesn't involve the Inspector Gadget crap.
See, I was going to say, I honestly don't remember because it's been 25 years since I've seen either of them.
Okay, it's the one
was it Alpha Commando or
Alpha Commando, like the one with the RoboCop, like that theme song.
One of them was made, I think, after the mild success of the Canadian TV show.
Well, that came after Alpha Commando came after RoboCop the series. At RoboCop the animated series, like the original one that opens with Alex Murphy being gunned down by Clarence Boddicker and his crew, that came out within like a year or 2 of the original RoboCop movie, and it was in that Marvel Action Universe where it was an hour programming block with like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and the Dino Riders.
So that's right, it was Alpha Commando that came out. Like there was RoboCop 3, which was the terrible movie with the ninjas,
but it had a jetpack, so it gets 1 point.
Yes, correct. And that served as the backdoor pilot for the TV show that they produced up here. It was at BC, I think, made it.
Yeah.
Or it might have been even actually, whatever. All I know is it had a lot of people in it that ended up working on like reboot and stuff. Like Blue Mancuba and a bunch of other people were in it as like detectives and stuff. And it was super cheesy, but I still loved it.
I will be loyal as a puppy.
Yeah. So I mean, it is funny how they turned an R-rated or almost NC-17 or R-rated in Canada movie, and like so quickly they adopted it into like a kids franchise. Well, and there have been a few others that did that.
Yeah, I mean, we had Rambo and the Force of Freedom, and I mean, even the advertising for like the Terminator 2 toys, like they kiddified that up. But moving along, last little news article here before we get into the meat and potatoes. Justice League 59 came out this week. It's the first issue post the end of Dark Knight's Death Metal and the Infinite Frontier Zero issue, which Dark Knight's Death Metal is the Batman Who Laughs, a Bruce Wayne who it's half Batman and half Joker from the dark multiverse, almost ended the totality of reality and existence, except the heroes pulled it off because of the power of friendship and a whole lot of butt pulling. And I love it. But we get a new lineup in this issue, which features, looking at the cover here, and I wish I could remember to put that link in the chat for you, Alex. I'm sorry.
It's perfectly fine. I can visualize.
Okay. So we got Aquaman, Green Arrow, Hawkgirl, Batman, Superman, Queen Hippolyta, not Diana. So Mama Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Black Canary, and this character named Naomi, who is a character. It's being written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by David Marquez, who's a frequent collaborator of his. And this is the first DC work that Bendis has done after his run on Superman over the last 2 or 3 years. He's the one that made Clark Kent out himself.
Oh. And
he also did the Wonder Comics line. With there was a really cool Wonder Twins miniseries. A love letter to the classic goofiness of Dial H for Hero. He brought back like the OG Young Justice and made it like fit it into everything after like New 52 in that. And we got like Connor Kent Superboy back with the leather jacket and everything. And he also created this girl, Naomi, who her mother was, I think, I haven't read it in a minute, but her mother is of the New Gods, or like one of the grunts from like New Genesis or something. And her dad was this alien from another planet. She's got like these super duper powers, and she's potentially one of the most powerful characters, pardon me, almost belched, in the DC universe. And she's going to be joining the Justice League and learning from the best. So, and Black Adam's on the team now.
Okay.
And they paid, I don't know who started this, whether this was like some weird marketing thing to get attention on the title, and they were using Black Adam because, you know, we got The Rock coming out with that movie. In this comic and online, people are calling him Shazadam.
Okay.
My brain's bleeding now having said that out loud. But
now I have a question, because you mentioned Queen Hippolyta.
mm-hmm.
I know, I don't remember which movie or which particular comic it was, where there was an alternate history where Thomas Wayne became Batman.
That was the Flashpoint universe.
Okay, and then I remember, was it at the end of the movie, our Bruce sends a message to him, or gives him a message, right?
No, the way that comic ended was Barry like went back in time the first time because he's like, screw it, I'm going to save my mother from being killed by Zoom, which resulted in the Flashpoint universe. So he goes back again to stop himself. And in the comics, that also was when we got the New 52, and it brought in like all the characters from Vertigo Comics and all like the Wildstorm characters, and created the new. But at the end of it, before the white light of antimatter wiped out that universe, Thomas gave Flash this letter that he then gave to Bruce.
That's what it was.
That made Batman cry. You don't make Batman cry. Not cool, man.
Yeah, he hands him the note, and it's like from his dad, and he just like tears.
Thank you, Barry. I love that in the animation where I think he was voiced by the guy from that NBC show Journeyman.
Bruce Greenwood.
No, that not Batman, not the Flash.
I know who you mean. I was thinking Nowhere Man.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Nowhere Man. I fucking love that show. But yeah. So Flash gives him like the little 2-finger ta-ta, and he GTFOs. Yeah. And but yeah, and it's not the first time Wonder Woman, like Hippolyta, has been a part of a J team.
Well, what I was thinking was, like, have they ever done a comic or either a miniseries or a run where it's all of the parents end up being the superheroes, like all the dead parents?
Nothing like that. No, I mean, there's been comics over the years where Ma and Pa Kent mean Ma and Pa Wayne,
but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
what would happen if there was this major thing where, you know, even in like Marvel, like what if it was like Uncle Ben has to like save people, or
they've done that in What If a lot.
You know what I mean? Like they've done like one-offs. I know where it's like one person takes, like, that's why I was thinking of Thomas Wayne. But like, what would happen if it was just literally a group of all of the parents get powers to save their kids, just as like a one-off dream, like 3-parter or something? That would be kind of neat.
Yeah. No, that would be entertaining. But yeah, I mean, Queen Hippolyta, like originally in the Justice Society, because when it was created back in World War II. In the golden age of comics, Diana was in a part of the Justice Society, and along with Bruce and Clark, because they were, you know, Bruce and Clark were part-timers. Diana was always there. And then post Crisis on Infinite Earths, when they retconned that history, they still had Wonder Woman, but it was Hippolyta who had gone out into the world of man to, you know, see, and she fought for truth, justice, and puppy dogs, and went back to Themyscira, and it's like, well, that was fun. And yeah, but yeah, I kind of love this new lineup. Like it's got that I kind of judge every Justice League lineup by my favorite lineup, which is the Satellite era. So you got the Big Seven, then you have like Firestorm and Elongated Man and Zatanna.
So all the stuff from like the Flash TV show, the first few seasons.
So, kind of, sort of, yeah. And this one's got that flavor. This is like when they brought back the 3D Doritos recently. Like, it's almost there, but you know, I'm just like, looks tasty. So, like I said, folks, watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Definitely, I was not interested, like almost flat out not interested in that. Not that I have anything against the actors. I didn't care for the characters. Like, just like many people didn't care for Vision or Wanda, like, going into it. Remember, that was like the big buzz. Like, why are they getting their own show? It's like, because they're good actors, and I think the characters have potential. This was like, this and like Black Widow. I'm not interested in Black Widow, but I see all the characters that are going to be in Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson, and I'm like, oh, now I have to watch it. Well, this has changed my mind. I'm like, well, if they can make these characters, which in my mind were the two most bland characters in the MCU, like they've turned them into Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Right? Like from all the previews.
Well,
and they've given Hart like just having Winter Soldier, like the whole reason, like you think he's friends with the Japanese man because maybe he knew him, served with him or was around him because he's in his like 90s and he's closer in age to him at least. And then it's like, no, and like not going to spoil it, but it's like, oh man, like
yeah,
like
no,
they had some weight to him for the first time pretty much ever.
No, I'm looking for it because I mean it's all based off of Civil War. Like, can you move your seat up? No, slow slide over, and then they're just giving that smug nod and smile to Steve after he's macking on Sharon. He's like, my boy. I love that. And oh, you got a metal arm? Spider-Man swings away. What? I hate you. Like,
yeah, it's all that banter. They're adding that into this. But they are starting out with the first episode, giving both characters grounded, real world issues that they can relate to.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like some people were questioning, like, well, why, with Falcon, it's like, well, shouldn't he have a lot of money? It's like, no, the dude was declared legally dead, so like his accounts are gone. There's no money left. Well, why didn't he go? Well, he doesn't have, he can't just go to Tony Stark. Tony Stark doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like they don't have magical money flying around for them because they were gone, right?
Well, they don't have the Stark fortune anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's smart the way they're doing this. They're really giving people something to attach to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure what happens with the Flag Smashers, there's going to be some elements of empathy that will be tugging on our heartstrings. But so like I said, we are going to talk about 3 specific storylines and how we might rewrite them, trim some of the fat and such like that. Now, the first one, this is one I'll admit, this is bonkers AF. It's DC's Bloodlines. Now, for those that may not know, and I'm not sure if you're aware, Alex, for like 5 or 6 years in the mid 90s, DC had, and Marvel kind of copied this to lesser effect, DC had these themed annual events, like I said, for like 4 or 5, 6 years straight. I mean, they had one called Year One, where every annual was basically a Year One story involving whatever character, that title.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, there is Legends of the Dead Earth, which is essentially, far future after a post-apocalyptic storyline. Some of them were even kind of tangentially related to like the future of Kamandi from the Jack Kirby run. Where you see
hadn't heard of that one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, there was my number one favorite was the Elseworlds one, where every annual was, it's Catwoman, but she's in like this weird fantasy sort of thing, or the Justice League in this world where it's a lot, a little more grim and gritty, but more this is the cost of superpowers, and this is how the world would react to super beings. And then there's one, I think it was the Detective Comics annual, where Batman wasn't Batman, he was Leatherwing, and he was a pirate captain,
Cool.
working for the British Crown.
So they really got to like swing for the fences and do whatever they wanted.
But with Bloodlines, it involved these aliens. I forget what they were actually called. Unfortunately, I could not. They're generally referred to as the Parasites, or I can't believe it's not the Xenomorph, because these things, if you look them up online, folks, and I really insist you do, because they look like these varying degrees of redesigned Xenomorphs. They've got this inner mouth tongue with like these little crabby claws and like a needle pincer in the middle that will latch onto somebody's neck and suck their spinal fluid, because
so it's the visually somewhat distinct but separate to avoid copyright infringement, which wouldn't matter Or this is
That-
DC. This is DC, right?
So
it would
xenomorph.
so it would matter nowadays, I guess. If it was Marvel, they would have just called them xenomorphs. But
So, and they had established years, I think it was in the Invasion storyline, the very late 80s, that there is the metagene in the human DNA, which has been expanded on in other titles over the years, like the White Martians may have been involved at some point. But basically, if you have the metagene, this gives somebody the potential to survive catastrophic injury or accidents. And that's how they would explain away somebody falling backwards into toxic waste, and then they get like radiation powers and such. So these people get bit by these things and they don't always die. Some of them, if you look at the link I had sent you, there's a guy named Edge who he got bit and then was thrown into a pile of scrap metal behind a gym, and this somehow gave him ability to become this metal werewolf hedgehog thing where he could sprout blades from his flesh and just like fire them off.
He looks like Beetlejuice when he got all spiky.
Yeah. They have two characters actually got their own ongoing series. There's a guy named Gunfire who can you pick up a crowbar and you point at somebody, and his powers, it's kind of like Gambit's. He'll agitate the molecules and he'll fire off in explosive bursts like a bullet. And he came out of the Deathstroke annual. There is the Hitman, Tommy Monaghan from The Demon, who had about a 5-year run on his series. He got the powers of telepathy and X-ray vision, except his X-ray vision gave him a headache every time he used it, although he did use it one time to look under Wonder Woman's costume. And he said, I quote, "I can die happy now."
Oh.
Because, well, it's Wonder Woman. I mean, that's cringe, but name me one guy on this planet that's ever read a comic book that wouldn't abuse X-ray vision. I'll wait.
Well, let's just be fair, guys and girls.
Yes.
I think everybody would at some point.
Yeah. So the story, basically these aliens land on Earth. They tear ass through all these annuals. They are sucking the spine fluid and they're using it to feed themselves, as well as this giant monster called the Taker, which basically looks like, for all the times you look at Cthulhu, it's kind of like an upside down Cthulhu. There's a big mass of something at the end and all these tendrils. So they bite, they feed the Taker. Eventually, these new heroes that were created, which were referred to as New Bloods, because it was the 90s, they team up. For the ones that hadn't gone off and just done their own thing or had died at the end of their annuals, because that happened, they team up with the Justice League and other DC heroes to kill the parasites and the Taker, and the day is saved. So knowing that's the basic thing, what I would have done is I wouldn't have made this an annual event at all. As much as I love the stories, I would have made it have a core miniseries. And I know this is something I hate with a lot of Marvel and DC crossovers. I would have a core miniseries, picked 4 or 5 main heroes of the Justice League, and have them have like a 3-issue mini involving the creation of some of these heroes, like 2 or 3 of these new heroes, and even have some created through the actions in a 5 or 6 issue core miniseries.
Well, and you could have also had, I don't know if that's how the story went, but like one of the new created heroes could have had the blood-sucking vampiric powers, whatever, but ended up being a good guy. Yeah,
there were some heroes created, but most of them either lost their powers or were killed by the end. Like there was a guy before he got bit, he was a preacher who was, going out and spreading the word and doing food drives and bringing sandwiches to the homeless, like doing the Lord's work. But then he got bit and became Cardinal Sin.
That sounds like a pro wrestler.
Yeah, and he basically, this is the closest thing to your suggestion, where he could absorb somebody's life force to increase his own power. And one point in his travels, he came into, I think it was like a goth costume shop, and he gets like this over padded vest with spikes on the top and like this weird codpiece flap thing that covers his nether. He's still wearing pants. Like it's just 90s as fuck. But
you know what? I looked at the cover for the last what was it, the last issue of that big crossover series, Bloodbath Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the alien on the cover just looks like Kang and Kodos from Simpsons.
Almost, yeah. And you have the guy flying behind Superman there and blasting. His name is Mongrel. He's from the Hawkman Avenue. He's a black and Korean. His parent, like his mom was Korean and his dad was a black army soldier, and he's accepted by neither community. And he's just like a complete dick in every appearance that he's ever made. And yet he's treated like a hero. With
torn up jeans, because of course, 1983.
And he also had like one of those like off-center ponytails, braid ponytails off the back, and he's got the mop of hair on top. It was the 90s, folks. And I think through the through line, I think you have the aliens come to Earth and have like kind of maybe the first issue, like you hear of all these murders and people like holes in necks and spinal fluid drained, and have like the Justice League looking in, like Batman going ham on guys like Professor Pig, because set it in the modern day if we were to redo it or not, but have like, or the Scarecrow, and
make it a little bit like Invasion of the Body Snatchers sort of thing.
Like some sort of body horror-esque sort of thing, because especially like I said with Edge, when you see him transform the comic, it's kind of horrifying because his hair is falling out and blades sticking through his skin, and over the time it's almost like a losing thing, because like maybe they infiltrate the government, or Lex Luthor comes into play and he's like, oh, if you want to screw with Big Blue there, you're gonna want me on your team.
Or even scarier, have Lex genuinely come to them for help. He's like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like you could do the conspiracy thing where he's noticing people within LexCorp are acting differently or disappearing. And he's like, I didn't do this shit. I'm a bad guy, but I'm not doing this shit. What the hell's going on?
Exactly. And I would give the aliens like more of a plan than we're just going to suck you dry and then spit into this pit with this thing with tentacles. Like I don't.
The spittoon monster.
Yes. No. SP apostrophe T, spittoon. It's an elder god from beyond the stars,
made from tobacco and spit.
Yeah, but I mean, just you look at the number of annuals here. I mean, it's like 3, 6, 9, 12. There's over 20 different annuals involved in this crossover, and so many of these annuals were filler, like either because like some of the characters died at the end, like these new characters. Like there was very few of them actually moved the story forward. And that was my thing with having a core miniseries, 4 or 5 issues, maybe a couple of spinoffs, maybe not, but you got to streamline this story, because while this is a huge story, they kind of like some of these aliens went to like Justice League Europe and was biting people in London or around the country, and like they could transform from the aliens into, well, approximate human forms, but they still looked like they were wearing like some kinky bondage shoots with like huge 80s shoulder pads and 7-inch spikes off their arms.
They looked like the Road Warriors, the wrestlers.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of them turned into like this babe with like red hair, and she showed a lot of skin in her legs, and her whole thing was like seducing men into bed, and then in the throes of passion, pulling a outer space Black Widow move. So I mean, that's what I do. Anything you want to add, or would you do a different tack on that?
You know what? I like I said, I would play up maybe like having some of the villains come because people in their own organizations are disappearing or something's happening to them, and have all of the superheroes be like very skeptical at first till they realize like they have a meeting and they're like, something's not right, because Lex and all these other supervillains, they seem genuinely scared.
Yeah.
Like have it be like people in high up positions at companies, people of influence, because you'd figure aliens would want to go, if they'd be smart enough, they wouldn't just be randomly attacking anybody at random. It would be, where can we get the most influence? Where can we, go after powerful people, because powerful people might have more of the traits that we want to suck away from them.
I got it. This is what you still have them be I can't believe it's not the xenomorphs. You have that. They're biting people, and some die, some become their thralls in like this weird hive-like mentality. And then the third ones, the ones that don't turn, become like these potentially new hero and villains for the greater DC unit.
Yeah, because they have there's some antibody with the mutant gene that allows them to
the metagene.
The metagene, sorry, that is basically fighting it off like an antibody.
Yeah. And they did actually bring this back a few years ago. It was during the reign of the New 52, and it was like a 6-issue miniseries, and he used some of the more popular notable characters from this, where it's this alien meteorite crashes and these spores get out in the world, and they get into people and they all develop these random superpowers. But eventually the infection, like they get like these like black, like exposed, when you see a horror movie and like the blood's going so hard and you got veins almost threatening to erupt out their bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Get a look like that, and they just go like rabid and just gonna kill everything. And there was this core group that survived the miniseries, and it's supposed to be set within like the actual factual DC comic universe, but they've never done anything with it since. So we could get back to that eventually. Now, that's DC. The next two are straight up Marvel, folks. The next one, it's Avengers versus X-Men. If you don't know the storyline, basically for what seems like the umpteenth time, the Phoenix Force is coming back to Earth. And this is a few years post House of M, where Scarlet Witch went no more mutants, and there's like 200 plus mutants in the world. Like mutants, like the Blob lost his mutant powers, so now he's just got like these yards and yards of like flappy skin wings hanging off of him. Like people died. Like there was mutant kids at the Xavier Academy that were swimming in the pool because they had gills, and then no more mutants, and all of a sudden they drown because they can't breathe, and their
lungs are full.
Yeah. And post that, there's this girl named Hope who's born in Alaska. She's the first pure mutant birth since that. Cable takes her because all these like purifiers and Friends of Humanity are trying to kill her, because kill all the muties. And Cable takes her into the future, and they come back. It's been like 5 minutes for the X-Men. It's 15 years for Hope, because now she's this badass survivor who her dad's Cable, and she basically looks like 15-year-old Jean Grey. She's even got like the X Factor yellow and green costume that Jean wore. And they go off from there. They have they introduce 5 new mutants, but it still takes like another 5 years or more before actual mutant births start happening again. But Hope is got this weird mutant power where she can copy or absorb and replicate mutant powers. So the Phoenix is coming to Earth. The X-Men and the Avengers both suss out that the Phoenix is coming for Hope, because she's essentially a reborn Jean Grey. Jean's still dead at this time in the comics. And they go to war over this. Eventually, a device Tony Stark creates splits the Phoenix Force into 5, and it goes into Colossus, Emma Frost, Namor, Magic, like Colossus's sister, and Cyclops. And through the back half of this series, when one of the Phoenix 5 is defeated, their powers redistributed amongst the survivors until Scott becomes the final avatar of the Phoenix. And just as before he's taken down by the Avengers and the X-Men, because Scott's become like a huge dick, imagine my surprise, he kills Professor Xavier. And Professor Xavier was dead for the longest time until the current paradigm, where they would take too long to explain it here. I'll have to explain it to you off air. So Professor Xavier's dead. Scott's defeated. He's put into prison, and eventually breaks out and decides to recreate, a new version of the X-Men, but incorporating more of like the Magneto's ideology. In fact, Magneto becomes one of the pillar cores of this new team, along with Emma Frost. So this is the one after Civil War. As much as I love the original Civil War story, what I hated about it is there's too many tie-in issues, too many spin-offs and stuff tying into it. And
I do remember seeing the covers for this when I started going back to comic stores around that time. Was this like 2011, 2012, something like that?
I believe thereabouts. I'm going to double check that.
Yeah. because I do remember the iconic blue and white A versus X on the comics, and I remember people buying it. But I do remember at the time,
2012 actually.
Local comic book store owner. I was like, "Is that any good?" And then, like, usually they try to sell. He's like, "Nah." I was like, "What?" He goes, "It'll sell." He goes, "I don't know how good it's going to be." That was when like the first couple issues were out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it turned out to be a big hit or not, but I just remember him saying that to me. He's like, "Yeah, it's okay."
Yeah. But like I was saying with Civil War, this is what broke me for Marvel events. Like I didn't care. That's only
probably where he was coming from too, is that it was just too much.
Like I got the core. I think it ended up being like, I forget, 8 or 9 issues, something like that. The only tie-in stuff I got were titles that I were actively collecting before. So Wolverine and the X-Men and the 2 or 3 Avengers titles that were going on at the time. Because this was also a time in the X-Men history where, they moved to San Francisco and they had a good little run there before Norman Osborn took over for a while. And they moved out until like asteroid Amit crashed in the Pacific off of San Francisco's coast. So they make a new base there. And then Wolverine and Cyclops have an argument and they break up, and they, half the kids go with Cyclops and half the kids go with Wolverine back to Westchester, and they rebuild the school again. And so they weren't talking very much at the time. Like Wolverine's trying to give the mutant kids a future. Cyclops is like, no, we have to prepare for the end. He basically becomes a mutant prepper.
Oh.
So the first thing I'm going to do, again, we're going to have a core miniseries, and that's it. I would talk, as far as details, I would first talk with the current writers of the individual, like the main titles, X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, all that. Find out where their storylines are, because I would want to write this story so it would fit, say, Spider-Man. I forget what exactly was going on in Spider-Man at the time, but say, issue 671 ends and next this new storyline begins. So in between those issues, a few weeks time could happen that you could put that in there to collection. Like Spider-Man will be in this event, but there's not going to be spin-off titles. Like just have a clear break where you could put that event in there in the continuity.
Yeah, and because looking at it, while it shows official labeled parts or preludes or anything, there's 16. But in actuality, there's 85 issues you have to read, and then there's 8 issues of the aftermath.
Yeah. So core mini, or was it 16 or no, 12 issues? So, yeah.
Well, 12 issues plus a couple like free comic book day preludes, that sort of stuff.
I might, depending on the writing and how crazy you want to get, I would say max 10 issues, maybe on the low side 7.
You know what I would have said? Like, this is one where the story sounds okay. What I would have done more than anything is I would have made this a 10-issue series, and then do an annual to finish it off, and
even a one shot
to finish it off. And then when you put it out in trade or hardcover, basically covering a whole year, it's a 12-issue series. To fill it in, you put in like the epilogue as like a 8-page thing or something as a bonus when you get the trade. Yeah. And that would have sold well. But this was like they wanted you to read about 85 things to get the whole story.
Well, and I mean, at this time, Wolverine, he's Principal Logan or Headmaster Logan at the Jean Grey Academy for, was it the Xavier School for
Gifted Children? Or gifted youngsters, I think it was.
That's gifted. So it was the Jean Grey School for Gifted Youngsters. He's nominally part of the X-Men, but he's also an Avenger at the same time. So he's working with Cap. Like, this isn't going to end well. Except Cap's not, as much as Cyclops was zealotly like protecting Hope, and we're gonna use this to reboot the mutant race, and Cap is like, nah, we're just going to take her into protective custody and keep her from her destiny. Like the Avengers are not, quote unquote, the good or bad guys, just as the X-Men is. It's that clash of ideals, which is something I would keep in the story, that the Avengers are like, look, we have to stop the Phoenix, and have the X-Men, no, we want the Phoenix. and then I would have the story have Wolverine torn between the two, not as clear, like he, in the main, like the original comic, he was just going to up and kill Hope. Like he was just going to get her got, and that would have, Bob's your uncle for him. But I'd have it more of an ideological fight. The Phoenix means rebirth, X-Men. The Phoenix means death and disaster, Avengers. And just keep it between the two teams, because by the end of this crossover, literally every hero in the Marvel universe was showing up. And one of my passions in the last couple of years has been working out reading orders for events like this, like trimming the fat. Okay, we need these issues. We don't need that miniseries. Like they had a 4 or 5 issue run in Avengers Academy where the Avengers were just bringing all like the mutant teens from Asteroid M and putting them at Avengers Academy in the old West Coast Avengers base, because we don't want you fighting against this. Also, you shouldn't have to go to war. And it becomes this whole, like, they are so leaning heavily on the whole Japanese internment camp sort of thing. And that made it very uncomfortable. It's like, the Avengers are just, they are
like,
not
see what you're trying to do, but maybe you're not executing it as well as you could have.
Yeah. And I wouldn't bring in any of the cosmic characters. Like the Guardians got involved a little bit, like the New Nova, Sam Alexander. But yeah, 8 or 10 issue miniseries, maybe some tie-in issues with the Avengers and some tie-in issues with X-Men, just the Uncanny X-Men and the Avengers titles.
Why not, instead of like how they split it up like that, have it be 8 issues, and then the tie-ins are from the annuals for each of the others.
Yeah. Well, you could have the annuals be like, have the epilogue for the X-Men, have the epilogue for the Avengers. Like I love the idea of the Avengers, the X-Men going to war, but it's just, there was so much fat. It's like when you bite into a chicken wing and you got that one wing that they just didn't trim enough of the fat and the skin off. You get that. Like,
no. It's all about balance.
Exactly. So, I don't know, is there anything else you would add or maybe do differently?
No, this seems like a story that, again, was too bloated. Cut it down to 50% of what it was. Find a way to, like I said, trim it up, and even if it concluded like adding 2 extra pages per issue, but making it less issues in total, I think it would have been better.
Yeah. Now, out of the main story, the things I would keep, like I would end, I do, and this is the thing I want to add to the story, is when they break the Phoenix into pieces, it's not just 5 pieces of X-Men, it's 5 pieces of Avengers. And it's something like the current Avengers title, they have this Enter the Phoenix storyline where random people are getting possessed by the Phoenix and given a portion of its power to fight to see who is going to be like the new avatar of the Phoenix in the Marvel universe. And I think that's working ideally that's working a lot better than this did, where it's only the X-Men that get the Phoenix in the story. Like, and they go on to like, plant gardens in the deserts and make life better, but they're basically like lording over the rest of the planet. And it's like,
I'm also somebody who doesn't like the Phoenix concept, in that I feel like whenever they run out of ideas, they're like, oh, let's do another Phoenix thing. It's like the magic eraser.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
Sorry.
So I think it's been overdone. I think the problem was the Dark Phoenix saga and a few other ones were just very well done, and then they're just like, well, we're going to milk it.
I don't think the Phoenix, as it's like Galactus or something like that. It's not bad. It's the leaning on it so much.
That's what I mean. Is like they hit a home run once or twice, and then they're like, well, we'll just keep going back to the well.
Yeah. But I mean, have 5 X-Men get possessed, have like Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye.
Only do a Phoenix story every 10 years or so is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Something like that. And then have it as like maybe they accidentally mess up some core cast Avengers member as well as Professor Xavier. Like I would still end it with the final blow being Captain America versus Cyclops, and then having Cap have that moment like in Civil War, because the power is too much, and he realized this isn't the right thing, and he
they're going to
folds.
Do it. We'll have it where they're going to kill each other over it, and then maybe have Wolverine step in since he's on both teams.
Yeah, and then
separate the two, and have I don't know if they've done it before, but have him take the Phoenix Force.
Or, well, I mean, in the current continuity, in some alternate future, Old Man Logan does become the Phoenix.
Okay, well, I was going to say, because the idea of his, like, his life of suffering and healing over and over again, there wouldn't be necessarily a better avatar.
Host. Yeah.
Like that could constantly be fighting the ambitions of the Force.
Yeah, and then end it with Scott, finger quotes, killing Professor Xavier because nobody except Uncle Ben stays dead anymore, and then have him go on, because I did like that run where he becomes this more militant guerrilla fighter for mutants in the world. But yeah, now the last one that I picked to talk about today is the core miniseries of this thing is great. It's the only thing you should read unless you really want to dig into the spin-off miniseries, and that is Secret Wars. Not the original.
Is that what's going to be part of this next phase, or was that the last thing?
I don't know. Now, there was the original Secret Wars in the 80s, which was the first true event crossover of its type. And then they had to lesser effect Secret Wars 2 years later, where the Beyonder became human and wanted to learn what it's like to be mortal, and it was really dumb. But this one, this is was written and created by Jonathan Hickman and Esad Ribic, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this is set up for years. Like, I love Jonathan Hickman. He's had these 2 great runs on Avengers and Fantastic Four. He plays the long game, and this guy is just shy of Grant Morrison-y, like, batshit insane events. But it makes sense once you see the end result. Now, they set it up. This is also the first big event after Avengers X-Men Axis, where a bunch of heroes and villains got their morality split. So Carnage became like this friendly guy who only wanted to rescue kittens from trees. And
is this the Carnage where he like can heal people or something, like White Carnage or something? Or is
that's Agent Anti-Venom.
Okay.
That's a whole other thing. And the Hobgoblin goes from being like this greedy capitalist to like this guy. He basically becomes Tony Robbins with a gimmick. And then you have stuff where Tony Stark basically loses his conscience and just becomes like a complete asshole. They had the Superior Iron Man series that ran just prior to this. So the thing is, what happens during the Avengers run is you discover the existence of the Beyonders. The Beyonder wasn't the only one. There are these beyond the Celestials, as great a magnitude as the Celestials in Marvel Comics are to humans, the Beyonders are to the Celestials. Like, they are basically gods, more so than the Celestials.
So they're like the highest tier essentially in the universe.
Yeah, it's like God, like the Big Bang. God just went click, let there be light. God, these guys are like one step behind that. So by the end of it, Dr. Doom uses the Molecule Man to steal their power. There are multiple Earths, like Earth 672, where like the Japanese Spider-Man Tokusatsu series crashes into the one from like Spider-Man Noir, and only one Earth can survive. And basically when almost stuttered there, when this story starts, it's down to Earth 616 and Ultimate Marvel. And it's literally Black Nick Fury loading up all the heroes and villains left on the Ultimate Marvel Earth into these helicarriers and sailing across to our Earth and looking to put foot to ass because they're going to be the ones to survive. And then Dr. Doom uses the Molecule Man to steal the Beyonder's power and reboots the universe all the bits that are left from all these Ultimate worlds, he coalesces into this place he calls Battle World. And it's this province over here is where all the Ultrons live, and it's their over here is where the Marvel zombies live, and every province is separated by the wall, which it turns out Doctor Doom.
This is Earth 15513. Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Earths.
And there is a lot, and basically the wall, like the Doctor Doom uses, he's now God Emperor Doom. Victor uses his power to, this wall is the thing. Every brick in this wall is your Aunt Petunia's blue-eyed nephew, Benjamin J. Grimm.
Oh, dear.
His wife is Sue Storm. His daughter is Valeria Richards. It's revealed at the end of this series that the current Galactus in this war on this Earth is actually Franklin. The son is Johnny. And Reed was on this lifeboat with a bunch of characters that survived the apocalypse. And by the end of it, Doom, basically, it's down to Doom and Mr. Fantastic. Doom has a moment of doubt, which Reed capitalizes on, if I read that correctly, and they reset the universe. Now, there are still the multitude of worlds out there, and there's 31 different flavors of multiversal travel. But what it ends with is the Ultimate Universe may or may not still be out there somewhere, but they fold stuff into 616. Like now, Miles Morales, all his adventures still happened, but now they happened on Earth 616. It's kind of like how they collapse all the timelines in Crisis down to one Earth.
Oh, okay.
And they have stuff like Black Panther creates this new organization called the Ultimates, where he teams up with like the Blue Marvel and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and they've got the Triskelion headquarters from the Ultimate Avengers comics. Just half a click that way off the Statue of Liberty in the harbor. And they fold that's literally the only thing that changed, though, is they folded a bunch of elements from Ultimate Marvel into 616. A year or so after this, they created they had the Battle Scars miniseries where he introduced Marcus Johnson, who's the illegitimate son of White Nick Fury, and by the end of it, he's lost an eye, shaved his head, and grown a goatee.
So is this an attempt to bridge, like bring some of the characters and ideas in that they've been kind of doing in the MCU, or is this completely disconnected? No,
this is all legit Earth 616. Now you got that link open for the Secret Wars wiki. Okay, click on that picture, kind of over in the middle of the screen there. Okay, so when you're looking at this image, folks, and it is some chef's kiss, beautiful artwork by Alex Ross. Like there's that guy kind of in the middle there, just under the W with like the wings and the red cape and all that. Yeah. That's a character from some long forgotten series from the Marvel Epic line, which was their original, like, no rules creators, adults only line from like the 70s and 80s. There are characters on here. There's like 3 different versions of Iron Man. Like you got main Tony Stark over on the left, over behind the white suited Iron Man, which is the superior Iron Man with no morality. In behind him is Iron Man 2020. There's
bottom left, even though it can't be, almost looks like DC's Captain Marvel.
What with the energy shield?
The red and gold looks like Shazam.
Yeah, that's Hyperion.
Okay.
And he's fighting Ultimate or Marvel Max Supreme or Squadron Supreme Hyperion with that white H. And if you look just underneath, by Captain America there, like under his left arm with the shield, you got Ghost Rider 2099, Agent America from the MC2 line, and underneath, sadly, we'll never see the end of this storyline. There is Mangaverse Captain America on Cap's right side. Like and they were treating this, like reading this, and they bringing back all these characters that I haven't seen in years or thought of in years. And the sum total of this miniseries, which took the better part of almost a year and a half between like actually kicking off and getting to the end, because there were some gaps between issues, production and all that. The only things that happened of any note was we got the Triskelion in New York Harbor. Miles Morales is now fully on Earth 616, and eventually we got the Black Nick Fury.
Okay, so they wanted to make it so that it would line up with how they're presenting the video games with Miles Morales.
a little bit,
and then of course the Sam Jackson connection with Black Nick Fury being in the Prime, or what would be the Prime universe.
Yeah, I mean that's all the way back to Brian Hitch doing the art on the original Ultimates miniseries, and the characters talking, who would play me in a movie, and Nick Fury was like, Samuel L. Jackson, motherfucker. But no, see, here's the thing. Reading this and reading the setup about this, and this is the end of days. This was going to be their Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't want to say I'd stake my reputation, because I don't think I have much of one to stake, but this was set up, all this literally the end of existence, and you guys don't reboot your universe. I forgot the one thing, the evil, snarky version of Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe survived as well.
Okay.
The guy called the Maker, who he's basically like a living stack of protoplasm. So he's got this weird xenomorph looking like helmet. Funny how we're bringing that back. And his head, when he takes the helmet off, he kind of looks like Riddler at the end of Batman Forever. Like after all that mental energy flooded into him, and he's got like this huge like noggin. That's the only thing of worth that came out of this. Now, what I would do, and it's kind of a cop out, I would have ended it with Reed defeating Victor, and then you actually reboot the Marvel Universe. This is only the third or fourth time that they've tried this. I mean, you had Marvel's New Universe back in the 80s. You had Heroes Reborn. You had Ultimate Marvel, which, at least in the onset, was considered to be like Marvel might actually just reboot their universe before.
I would have done like my changes here. Just thinking. I would have had, you said that was the Beyonders and everything, right? Have them either all get together or whatever, and we start the Big Bang over again. Like the world, the universe just implodes.
Yeah.
And we start a cycle where now, maybe there's some superior beings that see this and go, okay, just end it with them saying, cycle 657, let's see if it's any different. And you find out that it's all like things have happened. This has happened before, and it always ends up this way. And maybe we can change it.
The thing, like I said, like they didn't really change anything other than they added the couple of characters from Ultimate Marvel and the Triskelion, and then they didn't bring the Fantastic Four back for like another almost 4 years, 3 years.
I think it's because the movies have damaged it so much too.
Well, yeah, no, there's it would be a whole episode itself talking about the bad blood between Fox and Marvel at this time. But I mean, at the end of the story, the Future Foundation kids, Reed, Sue, their kids, are out traveling the multiverse with this kind of, his powers have been taxed almost to the breaking point, but the Molecule Man, who is really the hero of the story, like he is the key thing that defeated Doom. They go off and are recreating the multiverse, like, because Franklin has these world-creating superpowers because he's like this Omega level mutant. Pardon me. So you don't see them for like another 3 years and change. I would have just rebooted Marvel Universe. I would have done stuff like bring the Hulk back. Now, I love all the body horror they're currently doing in Immortal Hulk. I would have restarted Hulk, have him be on the run again. Such like that. Maybe not put Peter in high school, but just getting into college. Like actually change and update some stuff. I would have left Ghost Rider, like all his stuff happened in the 70s and 80s. Pardon me. So by the time we bring Ghost Rider back now, no one believes that the Ghost Rider exists. He has literally become an urban legend again.
And this time, because we got to make it all modern, he rides an e-bike.
Okay, you can shut your whore mouth about that.
He rides an e-bike. He rides an e-bike, and he delivers his form of vengeance and justice while he's doing
too much spice in the curry.
No, it's Uber Eats deliveries and
yeah. No, I would actually I would reboot the Marvel Universe if at the end of this, like the core miniseries of Secret Wars 2015 is great. I love what they did in there, but I would have rebooted Marvel. Like, I mean, we're running a little long today, but I think given the subject matter, we're allowed. Like, how would you reboot like a core Marvel character in this new paradigm? We've ended Marvel. We're recreating. Now it's going to be Earth 617.
Okay, so Earth 617. I would, if they were smart, they know that 90%. Let's be real. 90% of the people that have made the movies popular and watch them will never buy a comic. It's proven now. We've got 20 years of this where there just isn't the market for purchasing the comics. They'll love to watch the movies, and I would then find a way to, whatever vision they have for the movies coming up, that would be the universe I make the comics into. Period. I would have complete parody, where the comics are now side stories of what's happening in the movies or fleshing out what's happening in the movies, and that's it. Because there's no way they're ever going to get new people to, like, it sounds sad and I don't want to be cynical, but they're never going to get people to go to the stores and buy them, based on what they've done the last, 20 years. So I would do that. But setting that aside, as far as rebooting, I would probably set, if you're only going to do the one universe, and it's like this amalgam of them, I would set it in modern day, and I would then probably tweak it so that things make sense. For instance, instead of working for newspapers, it's for like Peter Parker would work for a tabloid. He would work for he'd be the one getting pictures or getting interviews and stuff for TMZ.
That could work. I mean,
as dumb as it sounds, but no, I'm just saying, like, just thinking, like, that's the realm I would be. I would be modernizing all of that, because what's the point of going back and just rebooting it the same way it already was,
or not rebooting at all in this case?
Exactly. No, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to do a reboot, as in
or
really make some changes.
Like what they did with Peter Parker in the original Ultimate Spider-Man comic was, when he worked at the Daily Bugle, he was a web designer. Like he worked on their website. Like that was his actual job. Like he could work from home if he wanted to. Like if I rebooted Spider-Man, like I said, he's in college. I would still have the Daily Bugle have a print edition, but they've also embraced electronic media. So you have articles on the website, you have video interviews, like reporters, kind of what they did.
The reporters will be doing podcasts more than anything.
Something
like that.
And
live streaming.
Modern context. I mean, kind of like how they made Lois Lane and Clark TV news reporters in the 70s. Stuff like that. And that's how he didn't have to use a phone booth anymore. Clark would just change in the back of his news van. He was a one-man crew. Yeah,
for example, you would do something like that. You'd have anybody that traditionally in these were reporters or photographers. The photographers would work as freelance photographers commissioned by whatever company to be like the paparazzi, because that's what the kids that would be reading the comics can connect to.
Yeah.
You'd have anybody that was a reporter would be doing it all through their digital platforms. So whether that be streaming, or it would probably be like a YouTube series or whatever, or you'd have them probably be entertainment reporters for like Entertainment Tonight, because again, nobody under 60 is watching the news.
Yeah. Or Daredevil. I mean, there's not a lot I would change about Daredevil. Like you still have him, radioactive waste, super senses, meets Elektra in college, his dad dies.
Being a lawyer works because that doesn't change. So certain backgrounds work.
The one thing, I guess, one editorial mandate, since and this is in a world where people still read physical media comics, because damn your eyes, I will never not want to buy an issue of Spider-Man. Have the artists like kind of incorporate more parkour sort of stuff, like that action, and especially with how we got so many artists the work for Marvel and DC from Europe. Like, try and incorporate more international flavor with artists and writers.
How about this? How about, and I mean, this is sort of meta outside of the actual comic itself, but for something like Daredevil, where his character is a visually impaired character, find some dynamic way to incorporate, like, obviously somebody who's fully blind isn't going to be looking at the comic, right? But you could do things like focus on launching those kind of comics in a fully accessible format where it's like a audiobooks. Like, why not release every single comic have a spoken word version?
Yeah,
in podcast form nowadays, where you could subscribe to. I don't know is it part of. Do they have it as part of the Disney Plus app, or is it like a Marvel subscription service or something?
You'd have to talk to Blanchard about the digital stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, why not in today's day and age? Like, you want to capture other people, do things like that. Have it where when you buy the digital comic, because people are lazy and they don't want to read, but as well, maybe you have certain impairments. Why not start converting all of your comics? They're not that long to read. They're like pay to have somebody do narration of them, and then you have digital, audiobooks of all of the comic books, or at least of the trades, a few times a year.
Yeah,
like that's a market that hasn't really been conquered yet. Like, I know DC is just starting to do that with Audible. They're considering adapting certain bigger like Batman stories into the full like audio play format. Yeah. Why not do that for this? That will gather some people and that can get some extra money. So think of, updating your business model for today's day and age.
I mean, and I do have a couple ideas about that, but I mean, just a couple other characters really quick. The Punishers, I would find a way to put the Punisher in there, but as they're talking even now in Marvel Comics, like, they're looking at ways to reinvent the Punisher so he doesn't have the skull. And
no, the Punisher, if anything, would be a War on Terror vet.
Yeah, I can get that.
And they'd have to tiptoe into not making him seem like an extremist on his own. No. There'd have to be some way to incorporate him into it. I think maybe it would have to be he was part of a special ops thing that ended up being that it was actually a black op that wasn't properly commissioned, and yada yada, and then he's left behind, he's blah 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 blue. But it is a sensitive topic, but you can use him in a smart way and modernize him, because for how long has it been now where he's either been a Vietnam vet or he's been the mafia's gone after him? When was the last time the mafia had any substance or pull in the actual states, like the Italian mafia,
I mean, the mafia is always part of it, but as far as him being a military man, now he's the Southeast Asian conflict is finger quotes. That's kind of how they name it. I mean, the Punisher's problematic, so I understand we didn't get that. I mean, you have stuff like modern culture in regards to nepotism and capitalism. Like, there's some interesting stuff you could do with Tony and Iron Man, or even Danny Rand and Iron Fist. There's so many ways. It's just, that's what bothers me so much. Like, this is a great epic denouement to the Marvel universe, and even if they didn't completely reboot it, they could have done more than, like I said, copy and paste some stuff from Ultimate Marvel. But as far as modern stuff goes, I'm totally with you with like the podcast or audiobook sort of thing. Marvel's actually done, there's been 2 different Wolverine audio drama podcasts that have come out.
Like get into that realm. If you're not getting more readers in the traditional sense, go after a market you didn't have before.
Yeah.
And like this, the audio market, like, if you go after not just, and it won't just be visually impaired people that get it, but you're going after people that would very likely not have bought a comic before. But if they listen to a couple of them and they're like, hey, I like the story, they might go buy it.
Exactly. Like, I definitely think the medium needs to evolve so much, but it's like when they say, well, there's not going to be any brick and mortar comic book stores anymore because print is dead. It's like, print's never going to be dead. It's just not going to be as prevalent.
I think the only thing that's going to save their industry and it's not necessarily going to save the comic book brick and mortar stores. They'll have to adapt how they sell and what they sell. I think the single issues need to die physically. There's not enough people. They've even and if you look, comic store owners are saying there's not enough people buying those individual issues. Where the market is for physical would be just trades and hard deluxe editions, and maybe you bring out the first issue or a special issue or a annual in print. But going purely digital for all the month-to-month ones are what makes sense. People aren't spending $3, $4, $5 on a single issue every month, or expected to buy 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
But what they can do is save up $12 to $15 or $17 and get a trade. And I think if a store, most of them have moved to more coins and collectibles and toys and stuff as well. But if they, aren't having to worry all the time about stocking 20 or 30 or 40 issues of different things a month that really for the vast majority aren't selling, it's an entire, the print industry just, I don't think is sustainable on the single issues. I mean, it's sort of shown that. We saw the havoc that was going on with Diamond, and what was it, DC starting their own printing or their own distributions network, or going with somebody else.
Yeah.
And how they're saying that, Diamond's going to go out of business because of this. It's well, when your entire business model is based upon expecting to be paid later when you're already stretched so thin you don't have the money, then your industry won't survive.
Okay. So we have run a little long on this episode already, folks. We really do try to stick. I mean, a topic like this, I kind of expected us to run long. Now, before we sign off, Alex, I want to ask you one thing. In this new rebooted Marvel 617, what would you possibly want to do as the first crossover? Either character to character or line wide. Just what would you want to do? Either
I would go
because I have an idea if you want to think about it for a moment.
Well, you know what? I would love to see a Punisher Wolverine in this new, like Punisher Wolverine, or maybe the X-Men are used a little too much, so maybe go with how about Punisher is arrested, yada 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 yada, and Daredevil's his lawyer.
But we just actually have a trial and not him escape.
Yes,
okay,
he's turned himself in.
Okay, no, that'd be cool.
Because he goes on one of his rampages killing people, and then he finds out that even through all his research, his intel was bad, and he ended up killing some children of his own or something.
Yeah,
he did something that was against his own moral code, so he turns himself in.
I would just quick, the X-Men, if I did them, I would kind of model it somewhat after X-Men Evolution, where they have costumes, they have the school, Magneto and the Brotherhood is out there, and kind of have them not be exposed for a year or two, and have that be the first big X-Men event is when mutants are fully revealed to the world. But my first big crossover, and because I'm a fanboy and because I love my Lord God Galactus, he's going to be the focus of the first crossover. It's going to be those 3 issues. It's those 3 issues of Fantastic Four that introduced him. But I've always thought he is such a potent and overwhelming force that it shouldn't, I feel he's been neglected in just being the Fantastic Four's problem all the time. I would make him more of a threat, something that legitimately the world's heroes have to come together to turn back the devourer of worlds.
Yeah, that'll work.
And they use that. I dislike the fact they did it in one episode, but the final episode of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was Galactus comes to Earth, and they have the Fantastic Four involved with the Avengers and the X-Men in somewhat. But that's the thing. This should be a problem. It's until they face the threat that no one hero could handle from the Avengers credo. Galactus. Yeah. I would make Galactus, the arrival of Galactus, the first big crossover.
Yeah, like you were thinking big. I was thinking small scale, but yeah. Big scale. If you're going to go teams, go something weird, go something different, go with the B teams or something. Don't always, go to the well of the A teams.
All right. So thank you for sticking with us, if you have stuck with us this far, because we're coming up on an hour and a half already. This has been TWIG Sunday Funnies. I'm JT from Saskatoon with
Alex, the producer.
And we're saying, we'll see you in the funny pages. Later.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.